Welcome to Season 2. We're back. Check out what we have in store for you this week.
This just feels sketchy. I'm just gonna be honest. First of all,
I think if there's a statement to make, I would call on people to use it well. Don't just buy it and throw it in your course.
What's this tool? I don't even remember putting that there. What's this tool? I think, I don't know.
It was the Purge.
I went through 6. Anyway.
Well. You've made it to Season 2 of the High Tech Podcast.
Season 2.
This is amazing. Ironically, you do not have a new host. I might sound like it, but this is Will, dealing with a little bit of a head cold. I don't know if it's going to come through or not, but me and Josh, we're back. We're very excited for what this season brings us. Can you imagine that we were going to do this?
No.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, a Season 2, this is where we find out, are we a really good show, Or...
Yeah.
Or we Heroes, where things just went downhill.
Heroes, the TV show, he means.
These are the questions. Yes, Heroes, the TV show. Sorry. I mean, other Heroes, I'm sure went downhill, but that's a TV show. If you're younger, Season 2 wasn't great, okay? That's all you need to know. It's fine.
It did not live up to the hype.
It did not. No, it did not.
This season, we're mixing things up a little bit. We've got more scripts. Technically,
yeah, we do.
We have
sort of more text.
We have guests and interviews and series planned. Even just tonight, Josh and I were getting a whole bunch of stuff together for this season. We're stoked. To that effect, we really want to encourage you as much as possible. Every episode, we're going to try and be accountable to this at this point to remind you that we have social, that we have a website, that we have stuff you can connect with us on. We would love.
We are alive.
We would love for you to find us in those spaces. Right. We're not just voices. We have a pulse. We participate in the digital world out there.
Well, you do.
If you... Facts are facts, my friend. If you're on Twitter, at High Tech Podcast, please like us there. That's where we post about our episodes every week. We have the most contact there. We're trying to be doing more there, but of course we'll be trying to get some hashtags together, do some connections with the different tech tools we talk about. If you ever have a question, an idea, a concern, concerns can go in the trash bin, that's fine, but the other ones, send those to inbox at hightechpod.us. That's hightechpod.us, which is also our website. We have one of those.
We do. We have a thing.
We've had it the whole time.
Yeah, it's been since day one.
We've just never really talked about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about it. We've referenced it. Yeah, check us out. It's hightechpod.us or us, depending on what crazy person you are. We post resources and stuff there. Every episode we post always has a page that goes with it with fun little anecdotes and links and things like that. So go check it out.
Frankly, if you're looking for an endorsement about how you could run your own website with two tools, you could do this: Notion and Canva. Go to our website, check it out. Josh is amazing with these things, right? But this is a demonstration of how you could do it. You can have a website tomorrow yourself. You just need Notion and Canva because all of our content is built in those platforms.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Hashtag not a sponsor. Not yet. And last but not least, so I promise you, not every episode is going to be this drawn out. We're just going to make sure you get these every single time. Of course, you can follow us on Apple, Google, Spotify, all the fun ones, but we produce the podcast using Anchor. Anchor is a free podcast distribution website. We really recommend it if you're looking into doing podcasting for education, which, ironically, Josh, we haven't done an episode on.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about podcasting for education.
As I think about that.
That's weird. You keep talking.
You take a note.
I'm going to go to our idea board and drop that in there.
Hey,
that's a thing.
It's the new season, but it's the same us, folks. We make the podcast up as we go. Anchor.fm/hightechpod. We actually have an Anchor website there that will give you links to all of the subscription sites. Our website has that too, right? But If you're curious about how you could do this, how you could do a podcast, both for your own purposes or for academic purpose, check out our Anchor site, because I think it's a great demonstration of how you could do it. It's so easy. I set up the episodes every week, just upload them, give a scheduled date, give a little, blurb, and it's done. I don't have to worry about anything else. 6 a.m. every week on Tuesday, the episodes fire off, and I only did a few things. So it's pretty easy, pretty cool. Also, hashtag not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor yet. That's the new season 2 hashtag. Hashtag not a sponsor yet.
Yeah.
Like, first season was hashtag not a sponsor. Now we're getting more full of ourselves. We're hashtag not a sponsor yet. And then in season 3 we'll be bitter, and it'll be like hashtag you were never a sponsor.
If only you sponsored.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, folks, please do connect with us on Twitter, on the website, via inbox at hightechpod.us. We appreciate you, and we're having fun with this. That's why we do it. It's our hobby. But if there's something we can do to be more effective for you, for folks who need this information, that might be using it for their instructional design work, instructional technology work, or teachers using it for their teaching work, we are here to do it. Without further ado or kitschy transition, our episode segments this week.
Transition.
Josh and I are a little surprised to start out the first episode with such, I think it's a little bit of a spicy question. It's not just
I guess.
I don't know. We're moving towards, less how, more what, a little bit of should or could, right? So what's our question this week, Josh?
Our question is, should we use teachers pay teachers? This is the question. Now, this feels less spicy to me because I'm going to be honest. I didn't really know what this was until you brought it up.
Surprise.
This is not a thing that I really knew about at this point. But I'm curious, and I have some thoughts. I've taken a look at it and the concept. So Will, you know a little bit more. So why don't you explain it more in depth for those who are also like me but don't want to admit it, and they have no idea what teachers pay teachers is. I mean, I think the name's kind of self-explanatory, but it's fine.
This is actually, that was a little bit of an inception, folks. I actually wanted him to answer that way because as representatives in higher education, typically, we don't really hear about this. I've only heard about teachers pay teachers through my K-12 colleagues. I'm not sure that it has a huge market for higher ed folks, because a lot of higher ed folks make all their own content and keep it very close to the chest. Teachers Pay Teachers is a website where you, the teacher, can host your worksheet, your assignment prompt, your discussion prompt, even your course outline. You could host just about anything that you've created. Theoretically, it should only be content you've created that you can host on this Craigslist kind of site for anybody to buy, right? So if you've done that amazing worksheet, you think it's just the best. Every time your students do the project, they do it so well. They follow all the steps. Like, you have made this worksheet, this assignment, so clear, so effective. It's great. Sell it. $5 a download, $10 a download, $12 a download, $1, whatever it is. Teachers Pay Teachers is a digital platform that allows people to do that. Now, the question is, should we? And that's why while Josh may not be familiar with it in big picture or have heard about it before me, I think that we can both answer that question. Here's the interesting kind of philosophical underpinning to this question. If we're here to educate, and so many educators are, kind of strapped for cash, and districts aren't really spending money on the curriculum in the first place, which is why you're going out and trying to use something like Teachers Pay Teachers to buy content. Should we be getting some money for it? I think my answer, I'm going to be forthright here. My answer is maybe. I'm actually not a hard no or a hard yes. I think there's space for this one.
Okay. I mean, that's a thought to have around this. No, I don't necessarily have like strong feelings yet. I feel like I'm like back and forth on this, just about the concept, because like, while yes, I think teachers deserve to be paid for their work and what they're doing. Okay, absolutely, 100%. this just feels sketchy. Like I'm just gonna be honest. First of all, from the higher ed side, because they're definitely not a higher ed focus. I'll just be very upfront. Higher education is in an other category, in case anybody was curious. It's like grades pre-K through 12th, and then like other. And higher ed's not even at the top of other.
It's like gray. It's
not
small.
Grade specific is higher than higher education.
It's amazing.
Anyway, so like, but I'm like looking at higher education. It's like, I don't know. It's like, the content just kind of looks like I threw, like a lot of this just kind of looks like I threw my scraps that I created while teaching over here for like $5.
Yeah.
Like just to kind of like pull some money out of it, you know? And like not all of it, you know, there's some interesting stuff. There's some like, but even like, I don't know. So here's my background, folks. This is why maybe I'm like, I'm leaning harder over to the no. Cause here's the deal. I come from like a ministry background in like churches, and this happens in churches all the time. There's like websites like buy my slides or backgrounds
Oh my gosh,
or
yeah.
my messages and my sermons. And like, there's literally a whole bunch of stuff up here that's like buy slides on this. And it's just like, I don't know. It's like, isn't that hard to make slides? Like, I just, to me, this kind of just feels like, I don't know. It just kind of feels junky. I don't know.
Before you
like
alienate our listeners, you know, don't go attacking people right away. Like, I'm just like thinking of the sarcastic Josh thoughts I've had in the past about this one. But no, like, I think that's a part of it, you know? I know so many faculty that when they teach, they give such a special and I almost want to say flavor. They have a flavor to their teaching. Like, I can't imagine them doing that with someone else's work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I know artists who can't use other artists' paintbrushes because it's not their paintbrush. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's something to owning your work and owning your materials that's important. And it brings some of that personality. It brings some of that presence to the actual content. Plus, you know, like you're saying, some of it's some of the stuff on there is like people literally like scan something out of a textbook and put it up there to sell it. I know firsthand of friends of mine who have had their free resources plagiarized by people and put on Teachers Pay Teachers. You know what I mean? Like, that's not cool. Somebody's out there giving it for free. You're gonna tag it with your Insta handle or whatever and put it up on there for $5. Like, that kind of stuff is where I definitely lean towards the no. Like, no. You should not be stealing. You should not be copyright infringing. Like, not cool. You're the teacher. You're the one who's supposed to be modeling for your students not to do that. So get your stuff together. But let's just frame it here. Perfect example. Like, let's just assume the best, Josh.
Okay, I'm assuming the best.
If I, like I said, came up with that prompt that's really just made the perfect activity for Psych 101. And it helps me, like an icebreaker. It helps me get to know all my students. The students always love it. I get high. It comes up in all my students. So it's clearly a good assignment. I made it. And it really feels transferable. I think I should sell that. What do you think? That's kind of the best example of what should go on there.
I don't know. I'm torn on this because I think part of me likes the philosophy behind like a Creative Commons type of concept, like where we're sharing ideas and use it. And like, listen, people should be paid for their work. Like, I get that. Okay. But I would rather them, you know, like be paid at their job or put together. Like, it's one thing if you put together like large resources of like writing and things that like go towards, like, obviously, like, you know, you should get paid for that type of stuff. But I don't know. There's just like something to me that feels weird about the like piecemeal, like, I created this, here's $5, like, give me $5 for a download type of thing. I don't know. And like, listen, I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, and I'm sure there is some decent stuff on here of like people who've created like packets and things, especially I can see why it's really popular in K-12. I mean, there's a lot of like, you know, I created this flip book type of thing, formatting, and like I get it. You
sure.
sometimes don't have time to do all of that stuff on your own, and if somebody does something really cool, it should be worth it, you know.
That sounds probably like my preference and like the best way that you could use it, like templates. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if you're not technically savvy, I think it would be really helpful to go and buy somebody's Word document version of a flip book. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea how to make that. I really want to do a flip book activity with my students. Great, $5. I download this. Now I can print, 200 copies for all my kids, and I'm good to go. That, now I'm like convincing myself like that's a good use. Here we go though, right? I love the poles. I love the polar opposites. What about those folks who are stealing content, or, you know what I mean? They're putting up something that they've adapted, and that's what's being sold on there. Like, who's that serving except one person's wallet?
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, like, I do think one of the issues with this website is it seems like there's not a lot of, like, fielding for what gets put up here and stuff like that, so it kind of feels like it does open the door for people to just kind of, like, throw other work that they've gotten from people or stuff up here and start getting paid for it. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, I think the reason we're both back and forth is because, like, it's not necessarily bad. But it's kind of like how I feel about social media. It's like, it's not in itself bad, but people screw it up, like, I don't.
Oh yeah. Good point.
And, I don't know. I think I still struggle with this idea of, like, while I'm torn because I feel like people should get paid for their work, I also think we should be encouraging free collaboration between educators. Like, and this to me kind of feels like it undercuts that a little bit, because now it's like, well, you could put it up for free or in a, professional development group that you're a part of, or, stuff like we've talked about, like with Pedagogy. You could share your resources, or you could drop that up there and get $5 a download for what you want. And it's like, teachers don't have money to pay for curriculum, so what, we're going to create a website now where they have to pay for each other's work too? Like, is that a thing?
Out of their own pocket. Because I can't imagine a district would pay for anything on the site.
And how much are you going to just take it verbatim? Like, this was always my thing that I struggle with these types of websites, because if I took stuff from this type of thing, I always ended up adapting it so much that it was just kind of like, I should have just did this. Like, why did I pay for this?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's why I like if it was templates and stuff, I could really see benefit to it. I don't know. There's just like a sour taste for me every time I scroll past one of these. It's like PowerPoint, and I'm like, okay. Sorry if you post a PowerPoint. I'm not like bashing you in this. There's just personally for me, I think my answer is, I don't know. But I'd lean
probably
on
not.
Maybe not using it. I think that's kind of.
I think that
I don't know.
I think that Teachers Pay Teachers has a need or a use in a space where teachers aren't well supported and aren't well connected. I know right now, Josh, how many times has this happened? Hey, man, I'm trying to do blah, blah, blah in Canvas. Is this possible? Josh gets right back to me. Do this, click this thing. Here's a link. We made a how-to to do it this way, right? Because I've got a Josh. And you all know the joke. If you've listened to any episodes before, the joke here is like, if Josh needs an app, he goes to Will or Will's, Notion board, right? Like, that's just that simple. But if you don't have a Will, if you don't have a Josh, if you're new to teaching, if you're in I see where it has a space or even has a lot of allure where I don't know where to get things and I need something. I've got a project next week. I can't get together. I've been sick for 2 weeks. My kids. Yeah, that makes sense where someone would try and find a Teachers Pay Teachers and quickly be like, oh my gosh, $5 and I've got that activity done. But that's in the absence of community that would be there to help you and support you through it. Because I know my K-12 folks, the folks that I talk to on Twitter and stuff like that, if any of them need anything, I mean, we still do that. We've been talking probably since 2000, 16, I think this group of folks I talk to on Twitter, every week there's one of us asking something like, hey, has anybody heard of a tool that does? And so we have that free access and we share that kind of content because we're available to each other, because that community exists. If it doesn't exist, I think that's why a Teachers Pay Teachers shows up. People know that they could get something that will fill that need where they don't have somebody to help them along the way.
Yeah, and I can see that, and I get some of those who are like, I came up with this really cool thing, and I want to get paid for it. Like,
yeah,
I don't see a problem with that either. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this would sit better with me if it was like teachers pay teachers, but like for ideas and like training. I don't know.
Sure.
Like, I think what I struggle with is just like any of these types of sites I've seen, the majority of the content in my opinion, and I'm trying not to alienate anybody, but I'm also giving my blunt perspective of what this is. They end up being like just like copies of things that somebody did once or
right.
a couple times in their class, and they're like, I could make money for this. And they maybe have good intentions, but they put it up and it's like, I don't know. I was like never very excited about the content that ends up in these sites.
Yeah.
Because they're not contextual and they're not involved in those conversations with the actual person. It's just a very I think it's a very contractual feeling on these types of websites that's just different than when you actually get into a network and collaborate and say, because like the difference of that Twitter situation is it's like, yes, it starts with that question, have any of you ever done this? And then so a lot of times it's like, here's like a thing that we came up with or a thing that we did. Here's an example of what we did. And then there's some conversation around that and you get some context of why they did what they did. And you start to get some ideas of how you could contextually use that in your situation.
Right.
Here it's like, here's a blurb, $5, download. And usually I feel like you're never quite fully happy with what you ended up getting at the end of the day, because it's not something that was made for where you're at. It was made for something else. And I'm sorry. Teaching is, while we can share resources and we can use it, teaching is not something that we just copy and paste what was done over here and we do it over here and it'll just magically work.
Exactly the same way. Or like, yeah. Even Psych 101 in this school is not Psych 101 in that school. It's not going to be.
Yes. And I think that's maybe why I struggle with these websites, is because I think they can be misleading.
Ooh.
They can be, and it's not that the person that's selling it is being misleading. It's that like the way the website works, I feel like is misleading. It's like you come into the website, you're like, oh, like they even have like topics. So I could be like, oh, you know what? I am teaching social studies. Let's see what people do. And they go in, they find it. They're like, okay, this is cool. I'm seeing like I could select PDFs that I want. Oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. Like a PDF in this topic of this thing.
$15. They're done.
$15, download, but they start using it and they're like, oh, well, I got to adapt this. I got to change this.
And it
I got to do
doesn't
this.
work anyways.
And like at the end of the day, it's not the perfect solution, but it advertises itself as the silver bullet. And it's not the person's fault for putting it up there. It's the way teacher pay teachers works.
Yeah.
And like, at least in a Creative Commons idea that does similar stuff like this, you're not paying for it. It's just like, it's resources to start that conversation, to start that contextualization, to start that work. And I feel like that's why I struggle less with a Creative Commons type of idea, because it's at least being upfront of like, we're not going to try to get money out of this. We're just trying to share as much as we can about what we've done. And then that way you can take it and maybe have a, springboard for what you want to do. And maybe that's where I struggle with Teachers Pay Teachers. So
I think how our ideas kind of wrap down, like we didn't set out to ask this question to come up with the correct answer kind of thing, but I'm seeing like a parallel here. When you work with like my Twitter group, or Josh and I work together or whatever, when you've got a community to kind of crowdsource an idea, it's collaborative, it's iterative, it will have some free materials, but some adaptation, whatever. It sounds a lot like a group project. And then when you go to Teachers Pay Teachers and you buy the quick solution, it feels a lot like cheating. It's like I'm trying to find something that shortcuts to the best teaching practice. I'm not saying that is what it is, but it feels like at some level, if you're using Teachers Pay Teachers, the burden is on you, the person purchasing, to do it ethically, to find something that will be helpful, to find something that was ethically sourced, and then to adapt it to meet you and your learners' needs. Like, I just not only spent $5, but I had to put in those 3 cycles of ethical, gate checking to make sure that the content that I end up delivering to my students actually serves them. And I think that's where the shortcut ends up not being worth it. If you actually use it as a shortcut, you probably don't check if it was copied. You probably don't check if it was infringing on anything. You probably don't adapt it to your classroom. And then it's a shortcut, and then it's not really that helpful anyways. If it becomes helpful, you go through all that extra work, and it's like, to Josh's point, why not just write it yourself in the first place?
Yeah. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it, I don't know. I'm not, those listening, we're not saying don't go use it, it feels like we're kind of playing the middle ground here, but it's really like, I don't think it's like, there are some things I'm like passionately against. I'm not passionately against teachers pay teachers. I'm just kind of like, it's not my cup of tea. I think that's where I'm at with it.
I think if there's a statement to make, I would call on people to use it well. If you're going to use it, don't just buy it and throw it in your course. Like, you're
also searching for good networks. I think that's where I'm kind of at. I just feel like there's better solutions. Like, there's better solutions by building relationships, finding networks of people, and it's not that hard to do. I don't feel like it's that difficult to find those spaces. I mean, it could take time, but take some of that teacher pay teachers money and go to a conference,
or just get on Twitter and start following education folks on Twitter. I
follow Will. He'll point you to the right people.
Follow me Twitter, and then go to my followers, and you'll find everybody you need.
If you don't know how to find him, go to @HighTechPodcast at Twitter, and you can find him through there.
Bingo, bongo. Both of our handles are on the High Tech Podcast profile.
You can
page.
follow me too. I have less of a network on Twitter, so it's not gonna be very helpful.
Following Josh is like following the podcast again. he likes the podcast posts and he retweets them. Yeah, that's what following Josh.
I know that's the extent of my Twitter usage.
Okay, well, in the wake of this conversation behind us.
Season 2's got tons of transitions left and right. We just don't know where they're coming.
We are so excited for this week's app because, as happens from time to time with the podcast app list, I might put something on there that I'm aware of or that I've heard of or I have an endorsement from other teachers.
This never happens.
But have never once used before. This evening's app is at the top of that list.
Guys, before we go any farther, I want to share some behind the scenes of the High Tech Podcast, okay? There has definitely been a time recently where we looked at our apps list. Like, we have a list, okay? Of things, apps, ideas, episode stuff, people we want to talk to, Christmas gifts, whatever you want. We have a list, okay? And there's definitely been a time where we looked at a majority of them recently, and I think the response was, what's this tool? I don't even remember putting that there. What's this tool? I think, like, I don't know.
It was the Purge.
I went through like 6. Anyway, that's it. But this one, it's great. Will, what is it?
Our tool this week is Wakelet. Wakelet is a digital content curation tool. Short of the fancy words, it's like a glorified binder, but in the best way. Josh and I started using it tonight, just playing around with it to get a sense of it before the episode. And it's easy, and it's clean, and it's better yet, free.
I am in love with this thing. Like, I'm going to start using this on my own, for my own personal use. I have so many ideas for this.
Josh has said that like every other second while I've been talking about it, but then every other, if he wasn't saying like, oh my gosh, I need to use this, he was saying, this would have won so well with that project last week.
Oh, yeah, no, I have literally just had a project that I was talking to one of our instructional designers about that this would have fit perfectly for. So like, the rundown of how the app works. Okay, so it's free. You just create an account. It connects to your Google account, Microsoft accounts, whatever you'd like in there. And then basically how it works is you're I think, Will, I like the way you put this. Okay, you said it's Pinterest for educators, which I think is a solid evaluation of, especially because it kind of looks like Pinterest once it's all put together. Somebody had an idea. So anyway, but basically you go in there, you start like a collection. It's definitely like bookmarks on steroids. This is another thing you said that I thought was very helpful. And then you can drop in like web addresses to anything, add text to it, images with it, and basically kind of create a collection of resources or websites or things like that. The thing Will was testing is he has this giant list of jobs that he sends to people, and
career
it was like
pages.
Career pages, like a Google Doc, and literally within like 4 minutes, you turned it into like this giant interactive
Wakelet,
like Wakelet collection thing, and like you drop in, you're able to put like an Unsplash image at the top, give it a title, a description, and then you can organize stuff in several different formats, which is kind of, I think, what I dig. I like the visual of it. It's kind of like this visual display. There's kind of bullets, grids. I think you were messing around. Were you using the grid or the mood board?
I ended up with mood board.
Okay, so you can do like a mood board that's just basically like, blocks of kind of content within it. There's even like a column set up that's kind of cool. Oh yeah, you can add like different columns and put information under it. So yeah, it's really cool. And I think the thing I like about it is it's super easy to add content from so far what we've been playing around with, because you basically just have this thing at the top and you drop in a link to a resource and it brings it in. But it doesn't just have to be websites. You can bring in images, PDFs, and for our educators here, it connects to Flipgrid, Google Drive, and it also connects to Adobe Spark as well, another tool we've reviewed. So you could add content from all those areas, including YouTube and Twitter. So it kind of brings in a bunch of content types all into one collection area, which is kind of cool. And then also it has a extension for Chrome, Firefox, and Edge as well. So I was messing with this, the way the extension works, and we've seen this before, like Notion that we use all the time has an extension for this. You can use that extension to quickly pull in resources that you already are like on the website, pull that in, and it gives you like a quick interface for adding it to a collection that you already have. And then share that with people. Like you shared it with me, Will, and it was super easy. I went in and just like clicked in, started looking at stuff. Right. You were adding GIFs of Ted Lasso along with jobs in a board. And it was,
they were encouragements, it was him saying MVP, like, come on, if you're trying to get a job, you got this. It was another one says like smells like potential, right? Like you got this, right? I'm just trying to encourage people who the whole point of this tangent warning here. I watch a lot of job things because I have a lot of folks in my life who I'm always just trying to make sure they got the best opportunities. If there's somebody's looking for a job, I want to make sure like, hey, I just heard of something at this place over here. So that's why I've got this list. And then I threw in the gifts to really lift them up. Frankly, Josh has given you all the reasons why you should use this, but I have one reason. You should use this because it allows you to put gifts in it. Like that's it. If it wasn't for the gifts, I wouldn't want it. No, I'm joking. But like, I just love the fact that you're looking through this mood board I've created, and in the middle of it's just a GIF.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think it gives you some flexibility to bring a whole bunch of content together. Now, to the educator side of me who has like options for this, I'll tell you right away the example we had. I was working with an instructional designer who wanted to do, they didn't want to do it. Their instructor they were working with wanted to do it, and they were fine by the idea, which was this idea of like an annotated. So we've done annotated bibliographies. We've done a bunch of that stuff. They wanted to do like an annotated podcast page thing, which is essentially just an annotated bibliography with restricted content.
Yeah.
But like
specifically get me this one thing.
Yes, which is podcast. This would have worked great for that. Because what's really cool about this, the whole point in my mind of like annotated bibliographies and stuff like that is that you're resource collecting, but then also giving like little descriptions about those resources so people can get a quick idea about what resources might be helpful to them, what they might be able to get into. And so right away with this tool like Wakelet, you can create this cool web-based version with direct links to content, PDFs. You can put in descriptions, images. that makes it really, easy for the person to click through and look through stuff and find what they want. And at the same time, collect information all together and share it with other people. So my immediate thing was like any type of annotated anything would work really well with Wakelet. We've talked about wikis before. Wakelet would be really cool with a wiki assignment, like like definition, because you can add in just text, like add like just even like a wiki, like shared definition page for a class. You could share this, have people collaborate on it, and create this cool interactive kind of Pinterest essentially for all of that stuff, and make it super easy to find it.
I'm 100% on there with you. Like, you could have students curate anything. I know that when I used Schoology as the learning management system, and just besides that, I've always had faculty ask me, like, how can I have students create a portfolio? And so a lot of the LMSs are always trying to put portfolios together inside their platform. But the issue with a portfolio inside an LMS is it's usually restricted to users of the LMS, or the ones that made a feature to make it public. It just sucked. Like, the end result wasn't very beautiful. This is your portfolio tool. You could, in a heartbeat, you could put together artifacts from videos to pictures to Word documents, PDFs, anything, website links. You could really curate a beautiful portfolio experience in this thing.
Oh, and that was the other thing. It exports all of this. You can export all of this out as a PDF. So if for some reason, I don't know how long Wakelet's been around, but if for some reason it ever went down, which never happens in educational technology. Never. They stay around forever, nobody's disappeared as I look at the graveyard of tools I've used in my life. But
rest in peace.
You can export all of it out as a PDF. And I did this to yours, which had a ton of GIFs and things in it and stuff like that. It exported pretty quickly. And it was actually a really nice format. Like, it exported as this really cool PDF that I could click on all the links that you had provided and resources that were in there. So, yeah, absolutely. I think this would be great as a portfolio as well.
Yeah.
Type of activity. Again, curation. I think that's the driving piece. Like, if you're going to curate something, Wakelet, I think, works really well for that. And it does integrate with other stuff. I just looked. It has connections to Google Classroom as well, too. So it's definitely educator focused. This isn't just kind of a side tool that does curation that could work well in education. It's a tool that curates and has education as its primary focus. Which is, I think, why we really like it just immediately. It only took like 30 seconds for Will and I to love this tool very quickly.
There's a certain laugh and there's a certain like smile that we get when we're just like, oh my gosh, this is gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had it with a few. We had it when we were messing around with GatherTown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I had it when I saw Math Whiteboard for the first time from our good friend Don.
Yep.
I had it with Wakelet. And I have it with Notion on a daily basis. There's a few tools, and Wakelet is definitely getting me there for sure. I think this is a cool tool. So go check it out. It's just wakelet.com. Super easy to set up an account, and then it literally took Will and I 30 seconds. Like, it's just like, oh, here's a box to paste links.
Yep.
So it was super easy. And then you can kind of play around with it. It's not that hard to share it with people. Will shared his with me really quickly, and we were able to kind of just play around with it. So check it out. Yeah.
All right, folks. This has been episode 36, episode 1 of season 2, technically, right? But we are back with the new year.
Season 2.
So excited. Next episode 37, we're going to be addressing the conversation, is ed tech in higher ed different than K-12, joined by my good friend, colleague Glenn Irvin. Very excited for that episode, and it ended up being Nearpod Part 2, right? Like,
we didn't you asked him what app he wanted to talk about, and
it really got there.
He started talking about Nearpod again, so like
it was perfect.
It's a cool episode. I'm excited, and you guys will definitely have to check it out.
Make sure to tune in next week. Until then, as always, find us on Twitter. Feel free to email us at the inbox. Go to our website, and if you haven't, check out our Anchor site so you can see and get subscribed to your favorite podcast tool: Apple, Google, Spotify, all the rest. Any reviews would be fantastic on those platforms. We really appreciate it. This is the first episode of season 2, our first day in 2022. Until next time, when we continue to deal with harnessing technology in the digital and physical classroom, we will see ya.
See ya.